Love is the investment in the development of an individual so that they could be able to achieve whatever it is that they see for themselves. That's love.
Well said.
And
Damn.
Yeah,
Wow.
well said, man. That's the album cover right there.
Exactly. Wow. Hey man, how's it going, brother?
Yes, Sean. Another Friday. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good, feeling great. Another good week in the books. And what's up, everybody? Good to see y'all again. And welcome to a brand new episode of As Is To Be. I am your co-host, Sean Acheampong, Digital Transformation Specialist.
I'm Carl. Go by Creed, Digital Transformation Specialist.
Right on. And today we have a super special guest. I'd like to introduce you to Chris Wilson. And I got to tell you, this man is a real creator of culture. Thank you, Chris, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
Right on. Cool. So let me tell you a little bit about Chris. So first of all, Chris is based in the GTA, right out of Toronto, T dot. He's currently the director of programming and brand partnerships for the Drake Hotel properties. And he's previously worked in London, UK as a talent booker, music PR for Ace Hotel. Right now, in his current role, he's responsible for assembling and managing an innovative, diverse, and attractive year-round program for highly quality music and cultural programs and events. So really, really cool stuff. I'm excited to dig into that. A little bit more on that track. His programming is focused on supporting the community, which is really cool, and creating platforms for cultural producers and artists to be self-sufficient. I could definitely take a page out of that. Final thing I'll say about him is with his passion for arts, strategy, and innovation, Chris is constantly looking for ways to create space for the voices of minorities to be heard and seen. So again, thank you, brother, for joining us today.
Oh, awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah. I'm glad to have you on, man. I mean, a matter of fact, that's how I discovered you on LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn is an amazing tool. Like, I mean, it has its ups and downs, but for the most part, you discover some amazing people. And I saw some of your posts about the community support, and then your discussions on music, and then you work at Drake Hotel. And, full disclosure, I've stayed at Drake Hotel. Me and my wife stay there quite often. We love that place. But now I see, the person behind all the music and the style and then some, right? When we go there, we actually go to the party upstairs, or we actually crashed a wedding one time. and right. And it's just an amazing location, amazing place. But enough about Drake, more about you. Tell us about your journey, like, how you got to Drake, your music, all those other aspects.
Yeah, my journey is a long-winded one, and I mean, I'm still on it. But at a young age, I started DJing. I am passionate for collecting records. Yeah, I am a vinyl digger, so I love records, and I bought a pair of turntables and a mixed bag of crates of like just random records that I wanted to dive into, and that was like my first exposure really into trying to develop something musically and following that passion for myself. And I carried that on through working in different organizations where I was able to do like high school proms and set up weddings and really get a full landscape of the different types of music that was out there, whether it be Italian or Portuguese if I was doing a wedding, and then doing proms and figuring out that bit. So that's kind of like where I started when it comes to music. And as I progressed through that, I ended up going away for university to the University of Waterloo, and having had developed that taste for music, I got connected to a group out there that was called Across the Board Entertainment, and really start to travel around and learn from a DJ who took me on as a mentor, DJ Flash. So it was like a really big part of me learning about the music industry and what that is from that perspective of breaking records and labels sending you music to play of new artists, and really having that entry point into it. A lot of it was where I really developed that taste for it. But while I was in school, I was lucky enough to my program was co-op, so I took a biochemistry program, and with it got to work in pharmaceuticals and get an idea of what it was to work within the for a different types of pharmaceutical companies, that being like an Apotex or a Sanofi Pasteur, some that are research based and some that are generic based. But I also split that time working for the student life office on campus as well. And that was like really my entry point into cultural programming, because a lot of the things that I was responsible for was programming to enrich student life on campus. So Black History Month, I produced a report that really dove into how to maximize and pull together student leaders and what that would look like when integrated into a campus, and how they would be able to enrich that student life as well, instead of it really coming from a top-down dynamics, really using the community to be able to provide the things that they need. So that was my start into it. And when I got out of university, I decided to take on DJing full time. And that was like, you know, I'm like, I really love this. I could go into it. And I was in a crossroads where my mentor in university, Heather Fitzgerald, had suggested that I dive a little bit more into social work. And at the time, you know, she had seen something and had, you know, given me the opportunities and allowed for me to develop skills in terms of public speaking and being able to presentations, how to deliver them, how to be able to do as a moderator, all of the skills that were necessary in terms of being able to navigate rooms as the leader and the person that is controlling that room. And saw that, she saw that social work was something that I would be good at, and that I had this talent for it, or this passion for it as well. But I wanted to pursue the creative art side, so I definitely dove into it, and being able to do DJing full time was one part of it. And I worked at a company doing taxable benefits.
Okay.
I'm good with Excel, so okay. I was able to do that too as well. So there's a lot. This is why the journey is it. So I worked for ARI, and I was managing their taxable benefits with the clients that they had, like Red Bull or their corporate or the CEOs who had vehicles that they got that the companies had given them, and managing all of their kilometers and what that would look like. And all the tax companies would come to me at tax season to be able to get that information so they could properly run their taxes. So I did that and was balancing the DJing, and then was like, okay, I'm
still balancing the DJ between all these.
Still balancing it, all of this. And then I'm like, I'm gonna go full in on it, and I'm gonna really start to try to do this as a focal point, and it being where I see myself, and start to develop my brand. All through this time, really like trying to understand what marketing is, what is a brand, and what does that represent, especially when you are it, and how do you differentiate yourself from it? Is it one? All of these questions that I was looking to and trying to answer, and it was really good. I happened to, you know, meet, and it was very personable, and I would go out and I would meet people and really present the things that it is that I believed in, that I was passionate about, and they would give me an opportunity, and I would take hold of that and really, you know, present and just show the value of why I am someone you want to work with. And that allowed for me to have a full-on weekly schedule where I was playing, you know, 3 to 5 times a week. I was doing special events for different clients in and around Ontario. I was getting to go to the States to DJ a bit. It really did open up stuff. And as I was progressing through that, I started to realize that I hit a ceiling in how I was being treated in the spaces, and my viewpoints and the things and the ideas that I had. I wasn't in control of them, in the sense that I couldn't offer up my viewpoints because I didn't own the spaces, and I was just the DJ. And that made me start to really think like, well, there's something more. This DJing is I love it, but there's more for me in what it is that I want to do, and there's something greater. And I could sense it because I was seeing it around me, and I was seeing how I was approaching the work that I was doing. So the opportunities weren't here in Toronto, and I wasn't meeting those individuals that felt that were on the same wavelength as I was where I was. So I was traveling back and forth, and I was deciding, okay, well, maybe it's time to just move from the city and go where the opportunities may be and may present themselves. So I went to Chicago, and I had some friends there, and I chilled out there, and really got to know the inner workings of Chicago, and go to New York and do the same thing. Yeah. And the partner that I was with at the time, her cousin was like, you're under the age of 30, you should apply for a visa to go to the UK. Like, wow. You love that music.
Why not?
It's everything. Why not? Like, you can go there, and you have to have, it's a very easy process in terms of like what you need, and the point system of what a certain amount of money in the bank account, be below this age. There's a system between Canada and the UK that allows for that to happen under the age of 30. So I was just like, well, yeah, why not? I could, hour and a half flight to New York, 2.5 or whatnot to Chicago, but why not go across the pond?
5-hour
really
flight,
actually make sense of it. So I put into process, and it was, once I decided that I want to, it took time. It took, me about 2.5 years to like really put that into motion, because I wanted to save money. I wanted to develop myself more. I realized that I was DJing so much, and I wasn't focusing on my health, my physical health. I wasn't focusing on, I wasn't providing that mental stability and reading and like really providing all the nutrients that my body needed. So in that time, I really focused on that, journaling, really started to put my thoughts down and empty my thoughts down every morning. I would wake up, I would journal, I would go for a run, I was reading, and I started to get into this, building my morning, my routine, essentially. And then applied for the visa, got it, and moved to England. Not with any real plan, just knowing that there was something more that I wanted to seek out. I didn't know if it was going to be working in music from a business perspective. I didn't know if it was going to be further in my DJ career. I wasn't sure of any of it. And prior to leaving, I had gone to England, twice, to just kind of do my reconnaissance, because I'm a scientist in it. So the methodologies and the research is a part of how I operate and I function. Right. So I made sure to go and do it. I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to move here, where do I want to live? Like, where, what is it? Let me live my life in this time as if I actually live here and travel. And so Airbnb allows for you to do that. You live with, and I was lucky enough to live with or stay with people in that time that were in the same creative industry. So I was staying with a DJ and a music producer and a set designer and meeting their friends, and they were showing me other places and telling me things to go to. So I really navigated and learned a lot about North London and East London and South London in my travels. So when I got there, I was like, okay, well, I know exactly where I need to live, and it's East London.
Okay.
And I was like, that's where I'm going to meet, and the community exists, and I'm going to be able to really navigate and give myself the greatest potential, be in the greatest position to progress with my journey. So we moved there with my partner, and we set up shop in East London. And I was lucky enough, like, I had walked into Ace, and the vibe of it, just the energy, the first person that greeted me, I was like, you know what, like, and this is the place that I need to work. I started as a server, and in the beginning I was working the evenings and doing like the weekend stuff, and it was fun because I was seeing like what the energy and the vibe was in terms of how the city came alive at night, which is a massive talent to London. They have a nightlife mayor Like it is
Wow.
it's a thing, you know? So when you really get an understanding of the nightlife, you really do see how that it's a part. And it is a cultural city in the sense that, you know, you can go to the galleries and the museums for free. You can really be, you can learn and tap into things that, you know, you might not know. It's all present and available to you. But I switched it as I started to recognize that, like, I now want to pursue my own DJ, and I like shifted to do work in the morning, which then also showed me a whole different atmosphere. Because if you've ever been to an Ace, the lobby is a workspace. It's a co-working space without it being identified as a co-working space. And it's like, you know, it's a members club, but not a members club. So in the daytime, it was all the creatives. It was the people that worked for Nike and the people that worked for creative agencies that were, you know, freelancers and consultants that were holding their meetings, and they were doing all their work, you know, programmers, in terms of like every person just flirted. And then the hotel in itself, you know, all of the relationships were with agents and musicians and with brands like Adidas. And so you're getting all of those execs who are also staying there. So it allowed for me to just like have conversations with actors and actresses and just kind of, and float within this realm of getting to have a better understanding of how did you get to where you are? What are you working on? What excites you? And really just, I mean, I was working as a server, but to be honest, I just felt like I was a vibe creator, because I was the in and outs of people's meetings and having those conversations with them. And my boss, the person who was responsible, like the cultural engineer who was responsible for public spaces, there came an opportunity to start to program the DJs that played within the lobby. So I started helping doing that. And then as it was, the job that I ended up taking as talent booker and music PR opened up. And he had come to me and was like, listen, like there's a lot of what you know and that comes natural to you, and there's some things that you don't know, but I can teach you those things, and I want you to apply for this job. Excellent. So he, you know, and it was awesome for someone to see that and know it, so I had met with his boss, and then the team Atelier, who is the agency who oversees the brand, and they're back in the States. So I'm having those meetings with them, those interviews with them, and presented what programming would look like for me, and being responsible for running a venue and programming it, and also programming the spaces that, you know, my boss was responsible for. So that was the entry point into it. And the biggest part about it was, you know, them recognizing that I don't know everything. I'm not, you know, but I have the framework, I have the infrastructure, that to be able to take on this role, and the parts where I am weak, they would support. And that was like a big thing for me to be like, okay, so like you're gonna help me with this, and it allowed for me to have that drive to want to learn the things that I was weak at and ask those questions. And to this day, you know, Vicky, who I look at as you know, we work together, but I look at her as a mentor, and you know, it's been a long time since I worked there, but if I'm anything I'm applying for where I need someone to vouch for me, it's Vicky that I hit up to do it, because we had that relationship, and she really guided and helped in her experience and what she had seen as a producer, to help me find and get that situated for myself. So it's been like a pretty wild, and I mean, I wasn't able to extend my visa, so I couldn't stay there. And I remember my last meeting with the people, like the people from Atelier, and them being like, okay, well, it sucks, but you know, we're in the process of really putting a property in Toronto. So, you know, in this time, like, take this opportunity to develop the things again that, you know music. So maybe it's a chance where you can dive into other art forms and really start to learn that facet of it. And, you know, I took that to heart, and I moved back to the city, and my goal was to find the tribe that I had found in London. I was like, okay, I know this exists. I know these people are here, and they're everywhere. But once you've aligned with that energy and that wavelength, then it's easier to find it. And when you know who you are, it's easy to connect. I think when you're unsure of yourself, it's harder. It's definitely way harder to maneuver the world. So I had found myself, and my journey was still progressing. You know, I'm short hair now, but I had dreads.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the dreads was a part of that journey as well. And I moved back to the city, and I took a job working for Free Space, which is responsible for the Creator Class. The Creator Class is a visual storytelling platform that, you know, runs through Instagram with photographers, videographers, DOPs, the whole bit. And I started working amongst visual storytellers and cultural producers, helping them develop their programming. Because I identified in London that I really am passionate and love bringing people together, and that idea of community and that opportunity for skills to be fostered, to be gained, and then for you to be self-sufficient. And as a creative, I started to recognize, well, I'm working with people when I was a server who are a musician, who are a photographer, and they're double gigging. And I'm like, whoa, like you're forced to double gig because you can't make enough in that realm, in the thing that you're passionate about. So I made it my goal to help those people be able to do that full time and not have to double gig.
Wow, fascinating. But you've gone so far, and even just listening to your story, it seemed like there was like an awakening that happened in your time in London that is really altered and just expanded your perspective. I have a question follow up with that. Was there a catalyst that you've learned, or like a trigger moment between being a DJ and really helping people enjoy life that's shaped your game and your perspective as it relates to communities and the corporate world and bringing that together?
I realized, like, as a DJ and what it is that I did, and I still do, so I still play when I can, is how people feel in a room when they're allowed to be themselves. When you can dance like no one's watching, there is no restrictions, and no one is saying who you are and identifying who you are without actually asking you who you are. That feeling in a room is something very special. And what I realized is that when you can provide that as a DJ, I believe that a DJ provides that in the way that they approach and curate a night through music. And then I realized that that's no different than the corporate world and a team. When you can empower and you can make, and your team feels seen, they feel that they can make mistakes, they can take risks, they can be innovative, you get the best work. You will succeed in any project, and then you celebrate that success and you discuss the failures, and the failures lead to success. You know, they still are things that, you know, that lead that way. And when you're able, though, to really present your whole self and never have to hide that or leave that out of the position, it really makes a massive difference. So I learned that as something that I did as a DJ, and I really have transferred it to the corporate and the programming, because I realized that is it, you know, an opportunity. I always said I never had a chance to feel vulnerable. When you have that ability to feel vulnerable, I believe that you can do anything, because it opens up your ability to the good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, the ups and the downs. So that's kind of like, I think, the thing that I learned through DJ to transfer itself to what I do now.
Wow, that's fantastic, Chris. And I interrupt you in your journey. Like, early at the beginning, you said you're still on your journey. So now I want to know where we left off is you landed in Toronto. What were, continue with your journey and tell me what were some of the lessons learned in still going on your journey. And I imagine you right that now you're crafting your branding, or is your branding finalized then? I have so many questions, Chris, as you can tell. So walk me through, you landed in Toronto, and where's your branding now, and what are some of the lessons learned to get to that branding?
I started to realize what what Heather, who I met in university, my boss,
Yeah.
what she saw and why she had said that I should go into social work. That's what I realized once I landed in Toronto, is like, okay, I'm like, she saw that I had this ability, I guess, to float within these groups and to listen and to reflect and to really see people, which is, it sounds so, we see people every day, but like we don't, I don't know, there's still something where we don't see them. We don't see their lived experience and what they go through, their trials and their tribulations. We don't accept our privilege or understand that people don't have that privilege. And there's something that I was able to identify in just my natural way of moving through the world. And I saw that, and the job opportunity came to work at the Drake. And really there isn't many spaces within Toronto to do what it is that I believe in doing and the work that I'm doing. But I saw something and I had experienced the Drake through the programming that we did, and I was like, okay, this as a music programmer, this is dope. I'll take this job, and like, and this will guide me through it. And as I got into the role, I realized that it's not a music programmer that the Drake needs. The Drake needs me, and it needs a cultural programmer. It needs someone to really bring together the community, because there's so many different properties, and they all have different identities. There's something that needs to be built out within those spaces, and that's the way I approached it. And that kind of has always been, that's been my journey within my role, because I started as a music programmer and now I'm the director of programming and brand partnerships. It's changed, and I was at one moment the head of music and culture. It's just kind of always shifted, and I've realized that like I might have a title, but what I'm starting to recognize is that I'm transcended. What I was doing was providing space and still taking that challenge of like developing skills and for individuals who wanted to pursue a creative career full time and to earn a profit from it, to turn a profit so that they didn't have to work in the coffee shop or be a server and do it. And that's a part of, I guess, we've come to know that to be a part of the struggling artist. But what I realized is, as a brand, is like, I wanted to eliminate that idea of the struggling artist, the starving artist. So you should have the ability to pursue what you want, your passion and your love, and earn what you deserve and what you need to live a fruitful life. And that is the brand that I recognized. And now, once, like, and still going on my journey and really reflecting and taking into account all the things that were happening in the world. And we fast forward and we go through the pandemic, and we see the rise of a civil rights movement that mirrors something of the past. And it started to it made me reflect about my experiences of Black man and where I had come from and what challenges and that shaped and I was presented with, and how I was been moving, and what privileges and what is identity, and all of these things started to come to the forefront for me. It really is about these skills. It really is about development. It really is about love. Love is the investment in the development of an individual so that they could be able to achieve whatever it is that they see for themselves. That's love.
Well said.
And
Damn. Wow.
Well said, man. That's the album cover right there.
Exactly. Wow. I don't know, man. I'm just so enabled by this conversation and inspired by your story. I'm wondering, like, what's next for you, and how people can learn more about your journey.
Well, what's next for me is I got into a grad program at OCAD in strategic foresight and innovation. I'm really
what? Say that again.
Strategic foresight and innovation at OCAD.
Goodness.
I'm really excited for it. OCAD has been doing absolutely amazing work, and now I feel like I'm getting an opportunity to go to a historically Black college, and in my mind, because there's 10 Black professors, the dean of the school is Black, the person that is responsible for my program is Black. Like, this is awesome. I'm getting to be in a Black space. I spent a lot of time in white spaces, and I get to be in a Black space. So my journey is taking me on to learn about this, and what I'm focusing on and what I'm dive in deeper into is the understanding of space and what space means. And as we learned through the pandemic, you know, we've had to do things within a digital space. We're in a challenging times everywhere in the world where we're considering what public space is, what placemaking is, brands and how they interact with communities, and what and how they market and advertise. They within a space, you know, like all of these things are things. It kept on coming itself back to and questioning, like, well, what is space? You know, we talk about safe space, we talk about public space, but like, really, what is space? And it sounds so like, I don't know, like futuristic, but in my mind, I'm like, that's the key to it. So I really want to understand that and really dive into being able to look at how, instead of a top-down dynamics, a bottom-up dynamic, providing the communities with the tools, the skills that allow for them to predict their future, to control what their evolution is going to be, rather than us or individuals choosing what their future is supposed to be and what their evolution is supposed to be. So that's my like path in, and you know, hopefully that will lend itself to somewhat consulting or opening up my own agency that really dives deeper into that, and getting into the government and the policy building side of things, and understanding, because it's really identified to me where these decisions are and what things need to change within the system. So I'm all for tearing the system down, but what I really want to know is, well, when we tear it down, we're left with nothing. So what do we build? Yeah. What is it that we're creating? So I'm trying to figure out what it is that I believe, and to meet with those individuals and have those conversations to see what we can create. And then we just swap the other one out and we swap this one out, you know? And I think that's kind of my journey. So you can follow along and follow me on LinkedIn and my social media accounts. I'm as a person that has to deal with them, I'm very much spending my time in experiences and conversations and being in the real and in the moment. So I float in and out of my social media, and I try to drop the knowledge or things that I see and things that I connect within my social channels. But you'll see more of the things that I'm doing through my LinkedIn, and you'll see more of it on my Instagram or on my Twitter feeds as I develop it. I hope that people follow along, and I hope that I at least spark curiosity in individuals to question the things that they're presented with, and hopefully we can have conversations about it. I always say I'm open to an email, I'm open to a DM and a call, because I think it's important that we listen and we reflect.
The whole reason why we're able to chat now is because I followed you on some of your interactions on LinkedIn, and when I reached out to you, you reached back. So you're definitely telegraphing what you say and actually do what you mean. So listen, this has been a great conversation. You're still on your journey, so if you don't mind, we want to be able to ask you to come back, right? Hear from you again and see where you land next, right? I just absolutely love that you're continuing with this, and you're putting me to shame. I don't know about Sean, but you're putting me to shame, where I'm like, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing with my transformational journey? I think I was going like this, but you know, in comparison to hear your story and hear where you're going, it's fantastic, brother. Honestly.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and it just means a lot to be able to share it and to speak to you. And both of your energies is awesome. So just you know, it makes it a lot easier to be able to open up in this way.
My pleasure. Yeah, no, this has been awesome all around. Cool. So yeah, this has been a great conversation, you know. Thank you again, Chris, for joining us today. Carl, you know, a peach as always. Thank you, brother.
Yes, as always, man.
All right, cool. So everyone out there, I just want to remind you to stay cool. And remember, you can live your life as is, or you can chase a dream of where you want your future to be. Peace.